Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it, and appreciate the witnesses' time. I've learned a lot about manufactured housing. I want to follow up on some questions of some other members. It seems to me that the panel's really talked about some great positives of manufactured housing, the affordability, the fact that it can be manufactured for 10 to 35% less, but there are clearly some issues involving more expensive financing and some tenant issues. My first question is for Ms. Dickens, because it hasn't really come up. What percent of folks in manufactured housing are tenants and rent the ground under their feet versus the people that actually, purchase ground and pour a pad themselves and do all that?
Thank you, Mr. Stivers. I believe that there are about 2.9 million households who rent the land under their homes in about 50 to 56,000 manufactured housing communities across the country. And there are probably, I'm guessing, and maybe the industry can give you a better answer, I think maybe 3.8 million households who own their homes in fee simple situations where they also own the land.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
According to census data, it's more like 25%.
I'm sorry?
25%.
25% own and 75% rent? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's the other way around.
Other way around, 75% own and
25% own,
25% rent.
25% rent.
It does seem to me, and I'm new at this, that the issues, the tenant issues and everything, and I know Mr. Gutierrez talked about how home values didn't keep up in some of the manufactured home communities. Some of that might be based on the fact of, the folks that choose to purchase the home and rent the ground, it may be a situation that is just not working. How many folks inside the industry have worked to try to change that? And I do want to talk to Mr. Chowsky about the HUD regulation that probably make that more difficult, that we talked about earlier, that don't consider foundation work, don't consider work with windows or siding or ceiling or any of those things as part of the home loan process or part of the construction process. Is there any move away from the mobile home parks toward real ownership of land? Is that something you're seeing more of in the industry and in the marketplace? Anybody can answer.
I maybe give it some guidance. Over the years, there's been a move away from chattel mortgages and away from communities. Not very many communities are currently being developed in the United States. That's more of a zoning issue than anything else. And the parks that are out there, the communities that are out there are relatively full, depending on which part of the country you're in. Our industry is building more and more sectional style houses that are going on real property, that are being put on permanent foundations, and being treated as real property.
Sure, and like Mr. Sherman asked earlier, we do want to make sure we look out for the 2.9 million people that are already in these situations. Absolutely. So with that, I do want to ask Mr. Chowsky about this whole idea of site work. If you don't have a foundation on a house, whether it's bricks and mortar or whether it's a manufactured home, it's not a sustainable situation. So why is that not considered part of the manufacture process?
Well, it is part of the manufactured housing process, sir. In 2007, and in accordance with the 2000 Act, HUD did issue installation regulation, model installation regulations. And there are 33 states that have, and those are minimum standards for installation. The department works with states as
so it's wrong when all these witnesses have said that any part of the foundation work, including footing, walls, stabilizing supports, anchoring, and all that is not considered part of the house's construction? Well, they've just said something that's not true?
I can only speak to the existing statute and the regulations which do provide installation standards that are published in the Federal Register and 24 CFR. And in addition, by statute, it allows states to implement their own installation requirements. Sure. There are 33 states that have already done that. And we work with state regulators that review those installation according to the state standards.
And I'm almost out of time, so I know a couple people raised their hands. Would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I would. I'm a little unclear on the issue here because the way that I understand it, although setup and the foundation and site completion isn't part of the construction of the home, it is part of the program. There is an installation standard that's out there that specifies the need for a way to set a home, a way to pier a home, a way to complete the home on site.
Would one of the folks, and I'm almost out of time, actually I'm out of time, if the chairman would allow me, would one of the folks that brought up that point like to clarify what the issue is?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Santana just said it. He said it's not part of the construction, but there is a standard. If the federal government doesn't consider it part of the construction under the Act, then they don't have to regulate it under the Act. All they have to do is adopt a minimum standard, and that's it. And they've directed that it's not preemptive then under the Act. Further, they've directed that the Consensus Committee doesn't treat it as a construction standard under the Act and have periodic updates to that. And
you want to answer
excuse
briefly?
me, one point. And to further clarify that, they put it in a separate section in their regulations from the construction standards. So they can keep that clear distinction between what is a construction standard and what is an installation.
If I may.
Yes.
I think what Mr. Roberts is getting at is that there are a lot of components to the HUD program. You have a set of standards, you have a set of regulations, and you have a set of installation standards. And I think what this comes back to is HUD's interpretation on what is under the purview of the Consensus Committee. They've stated that only the standards are under the purview, while the Act says that all the standards, the regulations, and installation standards should be under, or should be available for Consensus Committee review.
Gentleman's time's expired, but there's